All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's Stock Market Outlook video and weekly watch list video. As always, is brought to you by the Trade Lab and DeepView. Definitely check out those resources down below in the description. Today, as always, we're going to run through the market indexes, the key movers of last week, and discuss my watch list for the first few days of the next trading week. Right now, we're in the midst of earnings season. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to cover today. Obviously, we had a lot of the mega caps, reporting last week, so we'll cover those in depth. And I do want to mention that I'm actually doing a free webinar on how to trade earnings gaps, both on day one as well as on follow-on buy points. And it's 100% free. As I mentioned, it'll be next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. The link to that should be popping up right now, as well as is located in the first line of the description. I recommend signing up. And again, I'll be covering my process for identifying and trading earnings gaps on day one, as well as follow-on buy points. And I'll be going through my full process, not just talking about the setup, but how to screen for them, how to analyze them. There'll be a lot of tricks in there that I think nobody else is talking about. So definitely sign up. Again, it's 100% free, and the link is down below in the description. For instance, I'll be talking through my process for analyzing post-market movers right here using this screen, what I look for in terms of post-market volume to really focus on a name for the next day in order to identify names that can have very strong first day moves. So there's a lot to cover in there. Should be fantastic. And again, the link to that is down below in the description. And just to give a little bit of a tidbit, I'll be talking about how to analyze using a few simple prompts, the catalyst behind a move, and looking for that durability that can actually create a trend after the earnings gap. So again, the link to that is down below in the description. All right, let's go ahead and dive right into the market indexes. First things first, we're trending above all the moving averages. We are in an uptrend. Last week, we continued higher a little bit and then have basically been consolidating the last 4 days here as we've seen some volatility due to, big cap earnings. And overall, this is constructive. We're above all the moving averages. We were short-term stretched, and now we're back to kind of a normal range and just trending. This is where we really broke out of the consolidation. We had this big downside reversal on the China tariff news. We consolidated that. There was no fall through lower. And then, we finally pushed off here, broke out, followed through, and now, as I mentioned, are just trending above the moving averages. Looking at SPY, very similar action. Looking, however, at the equal weight names, these are weaker. The mega caps have been a huge driver in performance of the QQQ and the cap weighted names. And looking at IWM, you can see we're still in this consolidation. We had a little bit of a gap up, but now we're pulling back into that key level. Now, I'd love to see, the QQQ rest a bit and these indexes to push out. This is set up for a pullback entry with the upside reversal to end last week. So I'd love to see this follow through to the upside and continue a strong trend, while the QQQ maybe just rests or just, joins along for the ride. But, I think this still could use a little bit of consolidation. But, net, we're in an uptrend. Things are looking pretty good. So that is the main indexes. Let's take a look at IBIT as well. Very choppy. Just basing below the moving averages, chopping below it. We broke down lower from, the attempted rally. It couldn't hold above the moving averages, and we broke down lower, and now, as I mentioned, are just below those moving averages and very choppy up and down. There's not a super clear trend right now, and right now the best theme in the market is AI. Crypto has had its moments and could definitely have its moments again, and the miners have been acting really well, but IBIT and Bitcoin have been choppy, and it's very hard to trade with tight risk, a name like this. So I've just been focused more elsewhere. AI is the theme that's really in favor at the moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at those mega cap moves because, as I mentioned, we had a lot of big earnings reports. Let's first take a look at Amazon, and let me bring up that chart here. Amazon, obviously, rallied from this undercut and rally, strong action into earnings, and then a very powerful earnings gap to the upside here. We did sell off, but with the size of this earnings gap, I think that's maybe a little bit too expected, especially in a name that is so big as this. But I'd love to see this hold, build out a range here, And then I'll be watching closely for potential post-gap range entry, which is one of the entry tactics I'll be talking about in the next Saturday free webinar. So we'll see how this acts. I think it's very constructive that we've got this massive gap, and this is one to definitely focus on. If you like trading those big liquid leaders in the next few days, few weeks, as it consolidates, sets up a pivot here, and ideally forms a U-turn and begins a longer term trend, but very massive gap and strong action overall. And in DFU, if you're not familiar with, you can hover over any earnings report, see the EPS surprise, and we have a big beat up 25%, revenue slight beat as well. And these are the estimates going forward currently. So we'll see if this guidance gets improved over the next few weeks, but love seeing this earnings gap here. Bringing up a few others, let's take a look at, let's do Google. This is trending nicely. We had a nice breakout that I highlighted in the trade lab here from this tight inside day, tight range near this base. This looks very constructive. I love the look of this trend. This just looks so, tight and logical. As Ross likes to say, strong move up. We did have a gap up here and sell off, but we're just still trending overall. And even a pullback to the 10 EMA is to be expected and natural and normal. And this looks to be in a nice, strong trend. Getting into the other ones, MSFT did sell off after earnings. We had a strong ramp here that it got short-term extended very quickly, downside reversal, and now falling to the downside. This doesn't look too good. I need to see it stabilize for it to tighten up again. We're approaching big support level here. You can see all this consolidation, all this action near this level, and we tested that here on Friday. And I'm expecting to see a response and some consolidation here. We are also a little bit short-term stretch to the downside. It's funny, we got short-term stretch to the upside very quickly and then immediately reversed, and now a short-term stretch to the downside. So expecting to see some consolidation here, and just want to see it hold and eventually reclaim that 21 EMA, but not a huge focus for me as of this moment. Let's bring up Meta here. Probably the weakest of the mega caps here. We had a double bottom formation set up into earnings, but instead of gapping up and continuing a strong trend, we had a large gap down. And you can see, big volume here on this day. The next day we sold off further, but I think after this bar, what's really key is how does early next week act? If we don't manage to push much further down from this low as well as this prior day's close, especially after such a negative bar, think about what's your expectation after a bar like this. You're expecting follow through. You're expecting this to fall apart. If it doesn't, that's a sign that maybe this will be bought up and recover and continue on its trend. Not necessarily, actionable as a trader unless you're someone who likes to play those type of, bottom fish type setups, which I know there's many people who do. Not personally for me, but that would just be a hint that I look for and a good sign for the overall market if this recovers and continues trending. But again, after a big bar like this, if we don't get much fall through to the downside, I'd expect this to consolidate, reclaim that 200-day moving average, and continue its trend. But we'll actually have to see what happens next week. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. This obviously strong breakout here, highlighted again in the trade lab, strong re-breakout from this base, short-term extend very quickly. You've got an indecision bar here. Some consolidation was normal and to be expected. And now just kind of forming out a little bit of a short-term range. Again, still some air to the 10 EMA, 21 EMA especially. So I'd love to see it consolidate, tighten further, form a little bit of a shelf here. But I'm expecting this to continue its trend after some pullback, after some short-term consolidation. Very strong action and a good sign for the semiconductor and AI theme as a whole. And obviously, the earnings growth is very, very strong. And this is tied up with everything to do with AI. Bringing up Tesla, this is obviously in focus here. This has been a little bit choppy after earnings. We had a oops reversal after the gap down. It's now back in this consolidation and a strong end to the week with a positive expectation breaker reclaiming this base pivot. So what I'm watching for is continuation to the upside through this pivot right here. And this would be actionable. Looking at let's go to a weekly chart here. And let me just go ahead and delete all these drawings here. This obviously has been consolidating for quite some time. After its top in 2021, we made new highs and then formed a whole new base. and now is consolidating for 5-6 weeks right near those previous all-time highs. So the weekly chart looks good, the monthly chart even looks strong, and now all we have to do is see a spot on a daily chart to join on for the ride if you're not already building a position in this name. So again, watching for a breakout through this pivot early next week. Let me go ahead and actually draw it. There we go. And ideally we get a pickup in volume, and ideally it just goes and expands from this basically flat base after this longer term base right here and really gets going. The fundamentals still aren't quite there. There's a reason for the gap down, but the market kind of spoke here and said, okay, we're looking to the future. We're looking towards the robotics sector, all of this stuff, everything that Tesla's got going for it. So we just have to see what the price action shows us. And ideally it builds a very strong trend. All right, that's a little bit for the mega caps here. And by the way, if you want my take on any names I don't cover today, let me know down below in the comment section, and I'll give you my thoughts on that name. But just comment down below if you want my thoughts on any individual stock, and if you have any top ideas for next week, give me maybe your top 3. And if you have any thoughts on the general market, feel free to share those as well. Let's see. Let's actually go over to my universe list. And let me bring that up, and let's sort this by 5 days. The South American stocks gapped up and followed through. This is a trend I highlighted, a theme that's tradable. When these go, they can really go. But right now, the short-term extended, there wasn't really a spot here unless you're, entering near the 200-day moving average, and at this moment it's short-term extended. FLS and earnings gap, that was very strong on day one, strength right off the open, very strong expansion, up 20% throughout the day, and now tightening further. This is involved in the AI theme, their data center cooling. That's their tie into that. So I'll be watching for a range breakout here and see if it can fall through to the upside through the HVC or form some other spot here. Teradyne, another earnings gap in the semiconductor space. CRDO with the base breakout here. So a lot of semi names acted well. That was kind of the standout theme of last week. Twilio with the earnings gap. This one is coming back alive, going over to a weekly chart. This still has a lot of work to do to get back to its true market leader status, but is potentially, starting a breakout from a stage 2 continuation setup from this base and consolidation. BE, going back to a daily chart, this had another earnings gap, just in a very strong trend. And this all started from the catalyst here. This has just been up, basically straight up, strong, significant trend. I love trends that stay above the 10 EMA while just doing dips to the 21 EMA. That really shows the durability of the trend. And I'm actually thinking of a way to conceptualize that in a DeepView data point, the durability of a stock's trend, because that is a clear thing to look for, and it just makes holding the stock that much easier. So that's something that we'll bring to DeepView at some point, how to find stocks that look like this when they do trend. INSM, strong breakout. Net had a strong breakout to all-time highs. So speaking of 2021 action, this finally broke out through that prior high and a really nice constructive base here, and looks good. And going back to a daily, we've got a strong earnings beat. Actually, it just was barely positive here after expecting a negative result, and a little bit of a beat on revenue as well, but very strong action. Definitely a name to have on your radar going forward. CCJ, watching this HVC, hasn't managed to push through just yet. LMND, watching for a breakout here on earnings. And let's actually transition now to my upcoming focus list, because LMND is on it. So let me bring that up. FLS, we've already talked about, watching for a breakout through the HVC. LMND, watching for a move on earnings. This is in the insurance space here. And basically, again, watching, whenever in DeepView earnings are upcoming, what we do here is add a earnings flag here, red when it's really close. And you can see earnings November 5th, 2025 before market open. So I'll be watching for a move on that, and ideally a base breakout. IONTC, watching for a flag breakout here, just trending. You've got a great example of what I'll be talking about in the free webinar on earnings gaps, where we've got a post gap range breakout after this catalyst gap. And this would be the key entry to enter. And now we're up a bit, I believe about 30% from that point, and just trending beautifully. When you can catch a name shortly after catalyst gap here, that completely changes the prospects of a company. That is a great point to join on for the ride during that trend. APLD has been a little bit choppy here. You've got some fades, but watching for a range breakout through this level. My entry would be, again, through this pivot, setting my stop at the low of the day of that day. And you can manage risk very tightly. You've also got the logical 10 EMA down here as well, although it's about 5%. So again, I'd ideally use the low of the day as my stop. This is a fast mover, and when it gets going, it can really get going. So I want to make sure I'm managing my risk and probably lower my size a little bit for this name here. VICR, this is a name I spotted that has a monster move higher and is very tight. So watching for a range breakout through these highs, and we'll see if it can actually just go. But aware that from a tight range, we can also break to the downside. So, again, you always want to manage your risk with these type of names, with any type of setup. ACMR, you've got earnings coming up November 5th before market open, but watching for a range breakout, again, setting up nicely. This is a semiconductor related name and can really get going when it does trend, as you can see from this prior move in September. Path as well, this one has caught my eye for a while because of this powerful move higher right here. And now we're consolidating in a base and setting up a spot, potentially a higher low within that base alongside the 21 EMA. So watching for an early entry through this inside day high, as well as this overall pivot, and watching for expansion move higher. And then likely as it approaches these potential lines of resistance, which also lines up with this level here, I'd expect it, if we do expand higher, to consolidate here, form another range, form another spot here, and reconfirm and then break out of this base. But this would be an early entry here, and maybe we'll be looking to put on a half size position and then add on another range breakout through this spot here. Again, on a range breakout, my stop 95% of the time is at the low of the current day. It either works or it doesn't. So that's what I'm watching for with Path, an early entry from this inside day off the 21 EMA. And this is a very strong action here. And this has been dormant for quite some time, if we take a look at that. And I like to see that. And then we see the huge ramp in volume. This is what really catches my eye. And now we're forming out this base after the expansion move higher. So overall, that is my short list for early next week. That changes every day, and I update that in the Trade Lab. If you have any thoughts on these names or any names that you're watching that I didn't mention, again, let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, feel free to leave your thoughts down below. But overall, that's pretty much it for this week's video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for the free earnings gap webinar. Again, FLS, great example of a strong move on day one that we'll talk about how to position in and manage risk as you catch a name like this. And we'll talk about the full process from screening, ideation, analyzing the catalyst, all the way to entry tactics and execution. Intel, another great example of the post-gap range setup. That's probably my preferred way to trade these catalyst gaps. So for more information on all that, definitely go ahead and tune in. Again, the link is down below. Register, 100% free. And I look forward to seeing you guys there. Many of you guys signed up for my breakouts webinar a few weeks ago and loved it. We had thousands of traders there, which is fantastic. And I look forward to seeing you guys there again. That will be next Saturday, November 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.